Reporting from Arkham Asylum, this is Gotham Rogues. In this video we spotlight Jim Carrey's Riddler from the movie Batman Forever. It's another episode of Batman movie villains, and we've now reached the Riddler, played by Jim Carrey in Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever from 1995. In the movie, we're introduced to Edward Nygma, a brilliant yet severely disturbed scientist working at Wayne Enterprises. There, he's created a brainwave device that sends TV signals straight into the human mind, making it appear as if you're inside the show. Nygma is obsessed with his employer, Bruce Wayne, played by Val Kilmer, and desires to work alongside him in the development of his device. However, upon meeting Edward and hearing about his invention, Bruce regards it as mind manipulation and hence rejects the scientist's proposal. His dreams crushed and let down by his idol, the already unstable Nygma snaps, stages his supervisor's suicide and runs off with the brainwave device. Inspired by Gotham's public enemy number 1, Harvey Dent aka Two-Face, played by Tommy Lee Jones, Edward creates the supervillain persona of the Riddler. In need of funds to mass-produce his apparatus, Nygma contacts Two-Face and proposes a deal. Edward will discover the true identity of Harvey's hated arch-enemy, Batman, if Dent aids him in the looting of Gotham's riches. After a coin flip, Two-Face agrees, and the two set out on the town together, starting a massive crime wave. While this is going on, Riddler continues his obsession with Wayne by sending him cryptic riddles that, when all solved together, lead to a mysterious answer. We also find out that Nygma's brainwave device is secretly sucking all Gothamites dry of their intelligence, which is then stored inside Edward's own brain. Thus, his true agenda for mass-producing the machine is to make him the smartest man in Gotham. So, just like most cinematic adaptations of Bat-Rogues, Batman Forever's Riddler is quite different from the source material. First off, and the most obvious change, is making Edward Nygma a scientist. In the comics, he was just an ordinary nobody, and his profession as a delivery man wasn't even established until the same year as this movie came out actually, 1995. Of course, a couple of years earlier in the animated series, we'd gotten something somewhat similar to Forever's background for Nygma, namely a video game programmer. Sure, not a scientist, but at least an inventor of sorts. Riddler is also a character who is all about the mind, thus portraying him as a lab rat isn't really straying too far. What is way off though is his whole thing about brainwaves and mind manipulation. That's really more in the Mad Hatter's alley. Interestingly enough, the animated series version of the Hatter is very similar to Forever's Riddler. On that show, Jervis Tetch was a brilliant yet disturbed scientist working at Wayne Enterprises, where he invented mind control devices. He was also completely obsessed, not with Bruce Wayne, but with his secretary Alice, and her rejection is what turned him into a supervillain, just like Wayne's rejection did for Nygma. Gotham Rogues has a sneaking suspicion that the writers of Batman Forever saw that Hatter episode. One thing that's totally Riddler though is his desire to become the smartest man in Gotham. His arrogance, narcissism, and need to prove his intellect is something they've captured fairly well, especially in the grand finale when Riddler has clearly started to see himself as some sort of demigod. One very important part of the character that they messed up bad though are his riddles. Yeah, maybe the most important part. He is the Riddler after all. In the comics, his big thing is to leave a riddle before every crime, giving Batman a chance to stop him. But in Forever, he doesn't do that. During all those crimes he pulls with Two-Face, Nygma never once drops off a riddle or clue or anything. What he does is send riddles to Bruce Wayne, like a creepy, stalking serial killer. It all ties into his obsession of course, but it feels really shoehorned in, because there's no real reason for those riddles. And I'm going to have to do a big spoiler now, which I normally never do, but there's no way around it. And let's face it, most of you have probably seen this movie 100 times anyway. So Nygma sends 4 riddles in total to Bruce, and after having solved them, you get the word enigma, or enigma, as in Edward Nygma. Thus, you have deduced the Riddler's true identity. But what was the point of that? Why did Edward feel the need to tell Bruce Wayne that he's the Riddler? What purpose did that serve? observe. What did he expect Bruce to do with that information? And did he really have to do it in such a convoluted fashion as using riddles? Nygma has no real tie to riddles, puzzles, or quizzes in this movie. He even creates the identity of the Riddler just because he really likes these weird question mark men figures that's apparently a thing in Gotham. So to me it feels like they just threw in some riddles because you gotta have riddles somewhere. It is the Riddler after all. Also, the way Bruce and Alfred reach their conclusion that the 4 riddles spells out Enigma is pretty damn far-fetched and ridiculous. So maybe that wasn't actually the answer to the riddles. Perhaps the most interesting thing about Forever's Riddler is his obsession with Wayne. He seems to have developed some sort of weird fantasy where Bruce is the only one who understands him and truly appreciates his genius. It's classic star idolizing gone too far, where the fan begins to feel as they actually know their idol and that they are friends, when in fact they haven't even met. Due to Bruce's keen intellect, Edward sees him as a kindred spirit, but while Wayne is a sophisticated man about town, Nygma is an antisocial creep. He admires Bruce for these qualities and wishes that he could be like that as well, later in the movie going as far as to emulate Wayne's characteristics and fashion style. We don't get that much focus on the stalker side of Riddler though, and I wish that there was more of it. He also seems to somewhat idolize his other big inspiration, Two-Face. Harvey is the one who gives Edward the idea to dress up as a colorful supervillain, but that's even less explored and mainly just hinted at. As for Jim Carrey's performance, I neither hate it nor love it. It's not like Tommy Lee's Dent, where I can't stand it, but it's far from how I would like Riddler to be portrayed. It's 90s Jim Carrey, so he's over the top and goofy as hell, even more so than in his other movies, because this is Batman Forever. I really do like 90s Carrey though. I grew up with movies like Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber, but here, I don't know, he just isn't quite as funny as in those films. Maybe it's the script or the fact that he's supposed to be a Rogue? I really don't know. Needless to say, I would have preferred a cool, smooth Edward Nygma, a la the animated series or the Arkham games, over this Looney Tune. But this type of performance certainly fits the Riddler far better than Two-Face. While it's not my version of the character, he does lend himself to zaniness pretty naturally. I'm not a big fan of Riddler's design here. His main outfit, his really tight, revealing spandex costume is just, yeah, it's very silly. But to be fair, pretty accurate to Riddler's classic tights from the comics. I guess that outfit just doesn't translate very well to live action. I don't like the red buzz cut. He's never had red hair in anything else. But yeah, Batman Forever, bright colors. Also, all that makeup. According to the movie makers, they wanted him to have a doll-like look. Hence the thick layers of powder on the face. I don't really get that at all. Why should Riddler look like a doll? How does that help? Yeah, some very odd creative choices here. I have to say one thing though, the style he's rocking in the finale is so ridiculously ludicrous, it's almost kind of awesome. But one look for him I do genuinely like is that neon jacket he wears in a couple of scenes. That's a really cool jacket. Silly, yes, but in a good way. I wish he would have worn that throughout the entire movie. It's not stupid looking like his other get-ups, yet it fits the goofy, colorful tone of the rest of the movie. So in conclusion, Batman Forever's Riddler is okay in my opinion. It's not as good as Tim Burton's 3 villains, but it's far from being as atrocious as the other Joel Schumacher rogues. Speaking of the other Schumacher rogues, next up on Batman movie villains, we'll be taking a look at Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze from Batman and Robin, so stay tuned for that. Oh boy. Remember, Arkham Asylum awaits you in the next video.